Extinction Rebellion is not the stupidest social movement I've ever seen in my life. However, I've spent a large part of my life studying the history of social and political movements. And they get very, very stupid.
All right, so the first thing to say is there's some fundamental point here, which is any group of people have to decide who decides. So this is like an old political theory point, as you might say. And if you don't have a group of people who decide stuff, then someone will decide anyway. I want to suggest that the international rebellion is on the 7th of October. So you could come to me and say, hang on, Roger, how come you're deciding? What's so special about you? And then you could say, well, I'm going to set up this process through which you can decide it. And then someone else could come along to you and say, hang on a minute, what gives you the right to decide how to decide this process? This is the role of centralization. You have to have a group that makes that decision. Now, they can make it in a sophisticated way, but the bottom line is you have to have a group that decides. Or, in so much as you haven't got that, you have to have a group that decides how to decide. And you just have to do it. And it's a bit of a ruthless thing, if the truth be known. So we were a centralised group that was required to create this decentralised movement. We didn't say, this is what we think and all these other ideas that come. We said, this is what we think. If you don't agree with us, that's cool. You're going to set up your own social movement. But this is what we think and this is how we're going to do it. So, this is a paradox, isn't it? This is when you actually get to, to the actuality of organising things. These are the main issues you have to deal with. It's not some high moral politics about, hierarchy or whatever. It's about actually getting a job done. Taking money, yeah, we've got to take it. And it doesn't matter that it comes from someone rich. That's just a virtue thing. It's like, I don't want to be associated with these rich people. That doesn't matter. It might matter in 1990 or something, or year 2000. It doesn't matter in 2019. We need that money to grow the movement. So let's just take it. That's the fundamental point. Rich people don't want to die as well. Rich people care about their kids. So something fundamental, structural is changing here in the global social structure. Though all those old stories, those left-wing stories have had, well, maybe they're still correct, but there's good evidence to show that they're not, which is the climate crisis affects everyone, including these super rich people. So what does this super rich person do, right? What do we want them to do? Commit suicide and burn all their money? No, what we want them to do is do the decent thing, ring us up and give us that £1 million, because we need it. The fact of the matter is, we need to change the global economy in the next 12 months, right? In order to do that, some people are going to have to get paid. It's just the reality of the situation. Some people are going to have to administrate a mobilisation of hundreds of thousands of people. You can't do that through voluntary activity. You want to pay someone to do that. You need to pay someone to take the emails off, to open the post. These things are all the boring stuff that requires social movements, and social movements need some people to do it. This idea that, you don't have hierarchy and all the rest of it if everyone's a volunteer, it's actually bollocks in my opinion, because what it means is people that have got the time end up making the decisions, right? End up like doing stuff and becoming powerful. And it's no surprise that the people that have got the time are older people and middle class people. So there's this idea of sort of egalitarian sort of paradise because no one's getting paid. It's just empirically not correct. There's thousands of young people want to give up their shitty jobs and work full-time for Extinction Rebellion, and they're not able to do so because they've got to do some bar job in the evening when they could be doing talks because they haven't got the cash. So let's get them the cash, right? And another demographic are mums, right? Or parents. They've got kids, so who's going to pay for the childcare? Who's going to pay for the babysitter, right? Well, if you're poor, you're not going to have that money. So let's give those people some money so that they can do what they're crying out to do, which is to work full-time for Extinction Rebellion or whatever movement we're talking about, I guess.
So you've heard the pitch. You've just heard his mumbling, stumbling, self-effacing explanation for why centralization is necessary, hierarchy is necessary, to some extent an unequal even authoritarian command structure is necessary. And he, presumptively, will be at the top of that structure. And then, most importantly of all, you've heard why rich people need to line up and give him their money. Maybe you found it convincing, maybe you didn't. I've been lately talking to one of my long-term viewers who says that he's an anarchist. Well, if the end goal you agree with is anarchism, and what you want are to take the steps along the path leading towards anarchy, then that would completely reject this kind of approach that is instead not merely tending towards hierarchy, but to bureaucracy. It's going to reproduce all of the advantages and all of the disadvantages of a large, well-funded organization like PETA, People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals. And while they pretend to radicalism and they claim they're going to change the world in just the next 12 months, this group, Extinction Rebellion, you can look back at the history of PETA, People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals, and see that with their millions of dollars and their huge numbers of paid staff, just how little and just how gradually they have changed the world with equally pious motives and with an equally great sense of urgency.